going through your history, Googling about you, and I came to know that you wanted to go for your medicals. And after seeing the hostel facilities, you backed out, and your dad asked whether you can join for literature. Ultimately, you thought about the banking services and IAS, which will be better. So, why this total journey of yours and finally going for such a job? And which was the best time and best work which you feel gave you the most of satisfaction?
So, my very first ambition in class 8, I remember, was to be a biochemist. Okay. And this was in St. Xavier's School in Bokaro. And we had a very good educationist, Father John Moore. And he was also the person who established St. Xavier's Hazaribagh and then St. Xavier's Bokaro Steel. So whenever his Hazaribagh students used to come to see him, if they had done well, he would have them come and address us. So there was this gentleman who had studied in Delhi School of Economics and then London School of Economics who had come, and he asked him to address us. So he went around the whole class asking who wanted to become what. And I said, I'd like to be a biochemist. And he sort of sneered and said, sure, not a kitchen chemist. By the way, that was my first brush with what I would say male chauvinism. Okay? So that really put my back up. And I said, well, okay, someday I will show them that it can be something else. But when I started chemistry, this was in class 8, I hadn't yet started chemistry. When we started studying chemistry, I found organic chemistry intolerable, absolutely intolerable. So I realized that I couldn't be a biochemist. So then I decided, then fine, let me go in for the medical. Okay. And ours was the first batch of JE. All right. And when I came to, and that time, my father was not keen because, he was about to retire in 3 years' time. He didn't want to send me to Delhi, which would have been much more expensive. So I came to Calcutta and I appeared for the JEs, excepting I found that the Calcutta University, or rather the West Bengal board curriculum was different from ours. I was in the ICSE board. So ICSE board, we used to study cockroaches. The West Bengal board used to study earthworms. So there was a whole question on earthworms, which I couldn't answer at all. Okay. So I thought I wouldn't get it. But somehow or the other, I managed to get a seat in Calcutta National Medical College. Okay. But then when I went for the admission, they said, first year is pre-med, and that has to be studied in Bethune. And Bethune has no women's hostel. For that matter, neither has Calcutta National Medical College. So you'll have to stay in a working women's hostel. Well, I went to one of the working women's hostels, and even from outside, I could smell horrible smells. Absolutely horrible smells. So that put me off so badly. Then I rationalized to myself. In those days, by the way, these were immediately after the Naxal period. This was in 1972. Long time ago. Most of you all were not even born then, I think. Anyway, so the fact is, I realized that, studying medical means a minimum of 8 years. And on top of that, staying in a working women's hostel and doing all of this seemed a little far-fetched. And to ask my father to support me for 8 years seemed to be too much. And I had sort of taken a vow that by 21 I would be independent. So then it so happened that my father happened to meet the principal of our school. And he said that, you've seen the kind of marks she scored in English. She scored really almost top of the line marks. And she's very good in communication. Why don't you just put her into English? And that opens up a number of careers. So he asked what kind of careers. So our principal said, well, she can be a journalist. She can be, a teacher. There are various other things that she can do. She can do a lot of freelancing as well. So my father asked me, and frankly speaking, being the lazy person that I was at that time, I thought, ye to bada maza hai. I will hardly have to study English. Ye to aise hi pass kar jayenge. I'll pass without doing any hard work. And the Brabon was there. So, Brabon had a hostel as well. and their English department was supposed to be good. So I appeared for the test in Brabant and I got through. So at that point of time, I had no idea that I was going to join the bank. Absolutely none. I was just studying English. But then in the third year, when my father retired, I realized I had to get serious and I had to find somewhere something to do. And then I found that the only things that could be got without any kind of what is called pairavy or connection was in the All India admission tests, of which one was IAS and the other was the banking. Now, when I went in for the IAS syllabus, I found that I needed postgraduate level knowledge in one subject, which was not a language. And here I was studying English. Had I known this, I would have taken something else like economics or something, which would have been far more useful for me anyway. But anyway, if I was studying language and I had to study or appear for the IAS, I'd have to sit at home for a year and study up a particular subject and then appear for it. And I didn't have time. Father was retiring. So the next best thing was to go in for the banking exam. And it just so happened that because, I was trying to become independent, so I had taken up a job as a tutor to two girls. And these two girls, like many other girls, had been probably taught from childhood that they were duds in maths. And they actually were duds in maths. Total duds. And their father told me, you have only one job, to ensure that my daughters pass the maths exam. One was in class 7, one was in class 5. So I used to come to Alipur from Jadavpur hostel in order to do the tuitions. So I'd do my classes up to 1:30. After that, I'd make off, okay? Go and do the tuition for them. And what I used to do is half an hour mental maths with them every day. And believe me that half an hour mental maths with them every day ensured that I got through my banking exams without turning a hair. Frankly, that was great practice for me. In those days, you didn't have guidebooks. You didn't have anything. But the fact that I was doing mental maths half a day, half an hour a day for 5 days in a week gave me the kind of speed that enabled me to crack the exams without any problem. Because, the exam that used to take place for banking in those days, there was a paper on English, which I didn't have a problem with. There was a paper on general knowledge, which if you read the papers, you should be able to crack that. And we used to have something called competition master. So we used to read those. And the third one was a test of logic. A test of logic, if you know mental maths, test of logic is not an issue. You can do it very fast. Okay. So those are the three things that happened. And of course, after that, we had the group interviews and then the individual interviews. I used to debate regularly in college, go for elocutions regularly in college. I used to love acting also, by the way. So, I used to do a lot of acting in those days. That's something that I had wanted to do after retirement. I haven't done it. I must do something on that. But anyway, so after that, the thing is, that's the way I got into banking. It was pure chance, pure fact of circumstances rather than anything else. But once I got into banking, I found that I liked it. I liked it because at a very young age, you get to lead a team. A branch is your team. There's not much interference. You get goals. But after that, how you get to those goals is your job. And that I used to like. So, we used to work together. We used to strategize. We used to find ways of doing things. And so it went on. And that's the way I stuck to banking and, went through all the ranks and then retired after 40 years and 1 month. And whenever I say that to a room full of youngsters, they almost roll their eyes. But well, that's the time I spent in the bank. So that's the way I became a banker.